Video games and zombies. These two aspects are definitely no stranger to one another. Whether you're playing House of the Dead, Left 4 Dead, Dead Rising, or more recently Dead Island, you can be assured that there will always be a game out to sate your appetite for slaying the hordes of the undead. But probably the best known series of this genre is Resident Evil. With 20 separate titles released in this series since 1996, this is definitely the one series that most gamers think about when you say zombie shooter. While there have been many excellent titles over the years, and some really shitty movies, one of the more unique titles was Resident Evil 4. Released in 2005, this was the first title to be released on the GameCube, and initially released to extremely positive reviews, winning many Game of the Year awards. This game is so popular, in fact, that recently it has been re-released on both the Xbox Live Marketplace and the PlayStation Network with remastered graphics and all of the extra content. This is the version of the game that I will be reviewing in this video. Why? Well, I actually never got around to playing this game when I was younger. Mostly because I wasn't allowed to. But that's ancient history, and here we are with a brand new and shiny version of the original. So, without further ado, let's jump right into Resident Evil 4 HD. This game starts off recapping the events of the first Resident Evil. The incident in Raccoon City had been resolved, and by resolved I mean the US government blew up the whole city to stop the spread of the T-virus. Fast forward to present day, where we meet our protagonist Leon Kennedy. Leon was a police officer in Raccoon City during the events of the first Resident Evil, and is currently an agent in the American Secret Service. His first assignment? Track down the president's daughter Ashley, who has been kidnapped and is being held in the rural area of a European country. While they don't specify which country it is, here's a hint. The natives speak Spanish. As Leon enters a nearby village, he soon discovers that the natives are not only extremely hostile, but they also seem to be suffering from effects similar to the T-virus. As he continues to investigate, he stumbles upon a local who isn't trying to bludgeon him to death, named Luis Serra. Luis is a former police officer who has also found himself mixed up in this situation. But of course, while it isn't revealed right away, he knows much more than he's letting on. Shortly after he and Leon meet, they are both kidnapped by the village leader, and Leon is infected with the egg of a parasite known as Las Plagas. Leon manages to escape and continues his search for Ashley. After fighting through hordes of villagers, and fending off both a giant and a leviathan, he locates Ashley in the town church. However, as he is about to escape with her, he is intercepted by a mysterious man named Sadler, who is the leader of a mysterious cult named Los Illuminados. Sadler informs Leon that he intends to hold Ashley ransom until the president gives him a large amount of money. Afterward, he would gladly send Ashley home. What's the catch to this? Well, Ashley herself has been infected with Las Plagas, so by the time she reaches America, this plague will begin to spread across the country. Leon manages to escape with Ashley, but it isn't necessarily smooth sailing from here, as Leon must fight through more angry mobs, cultists, catapults, and even military zombies in order to find a way to destroy the parasite in both himself and Ashley, while also finding a way to get back to America. But there is one other member to this madness. Say hello to Ada Wong. Ada is a former associate of Leon, and she does help him occasionally along the way. But, of course, there is a catch. Let's just say she isn't necessarily helping Leon out of the kindness of her heart. In fact, she's working for a certain character who is very well known to the Resident Evil series. Here's a hint. It isn't Chris or Jill. That's right, she's working for everyone's favorite hammy villain, Wesker. While Wesker never makes an appearance in the main campaign, he does have a large hand in the events, and in hindsight, this actually perfectly segues into the events of Resident Evil 5. As I'm sure you've noticed by now, this game is a third-person shooter / survival horror game. But with the addition of Ashley, there are quite a few chapters that mix up the combat with escorting her. Although, unlike many damsels in distress, she isn't entirely useless. There are many missions in which you must work with her in order to solve puzzles, open gates, or even plow through enemies with a giant bulldozer. In the missions in which she is a bit less than helpful, you must protect her as she can't fight. In the earlier missions and in a few of the later missions, she can just be told to hide in certain areas while you deal with the enemies. However, many times there's nowhere for her to hide, and if you aren't paying close enough attention, she could either die or get kidnapped, resulting in a game over. Now, fighting through waves of infected civilians and sometimes monstrosities can require some heavy firepower. So what's a guy to do in this situation? Well, not to worry, this is where the merchant comes in. In multiple locations in each chapter, you will be able to locate a mysterious merchant. While this character has no backstory, and his motives, aside from profiting on the situation at hand, are unknown, he will be able to sell you weapons, armor, and upgrades for the cash that you collect in your travels. These weapons vary from your standard pistol and shotgun, all the way up to high-powered sniper rifles, and even a weapon which alludes to a Capcom cult classic. Overall, this campaign is 5 acts long, with each act containing around 4 chapters. All of this will run you around 15 hours. But, with the HD version of this game, you also get 3 expansions. The first expansion is called Separate Ways. This expansion lets you play through the main campaign through the eyes of Ada. As previously mentioned, Ada is working for Wesker, and it is revealed in this campaign that Wesker wants a sample of Las Plagas for himself. As you progress through this campaign and you see events unfold through Ada's eyes, not only do many of the events of the primary campaign start to make more sense, but you also get a better explanation of the motives behind Luis's actions. This campaign is only 5 chapters long, but it does add a decent amount to gameplay. Along with gaining the ability to use Ada's hookshot in order to reach higher areas and avoid certain conflicts, you will also be able to purchase a crossbow which fires explosive bolts. Although it is interesting to see Ada's perspective in this situation, keep in mind that you will be going through the exact same areas for the most part, and most of the cutscenes are the exact same as the primary campaign. The second expansion is Assignment Ada. This expansion has you once again playing as Ada as she fights through the labs of Los Iluminados in order to secure 5 samples of Las Plagas for Wesker. As you may have guessed, this expansion is not canonical. While the game does throw quite a few enemies at you in this expansion, you actually barely need to fight any of them. In fact, if you manage to pick up all of the samples while rushing through, this expansion can run you only around a half an hour. The final expansion to this game is called The Mercenaries. In this mode, you start off in one of 4 locations. The objective is to see how many enemies you can defeat in 2 minutes. For each enemy you kill in a row, you will gain a bonus multiplier to your score. As you fight, you can pick up upgrades which will extend your time. However, keep in mind that the longer you hold out, the tougher the enemies will get. So essentially this is just an arcade mode, but it is fun and does add a good amount of replayability. Now for the reviewing. The graphics in this game are fantastic. From what I've seen, they were pretty good in the original GameCube version of this game, but this update makes the character models and even some of the environments look very smooth and fairly realistic. As for the gameplay, well, this is where it gets interesting. This is set up similarly to Metroid Prime, in which in order to shoot, you must hold the right trigger to aim, while pressing the X button to fire. Also like Metroid Prime, you cannot move while aiming. Now, due to the fact that all you're doing is shooting, this isn't too big of an issue. However, considering the enemies tend to come from all directions, this can be a bit problematic. Now, you can control the camera in order to look around for enemies, but the camera has a fairly small sweeping function and will always snap back to behind Leon. Considering I played Resident Evil 5 before I played this game, and considering the controls are pretty much identical, I didn't have too much trouble getting used to the layout. However, if this is your first time playing the game, it may take a while to get used to the strange control scheme. But considering how much people hated the controls in the original Resident Evil, this was probably a welcome improvement in many people's eyes. I honestly don't have a lot of negative things to say about this game, but there is one aspect that always kind of bothered me about this, Resident Evil 5, and Dead Space. If you die while playing, you respawn at the nearest checkpoint. However, if you turn off your console, you can only respawn at certain save points. Now, the save points are at convenient locations and usually aren't too far from one another, but I never understood why you can't just start off at the checkpoints after turning off your console. But aside from this complaint, I honestly don't have anything bad to say about this game. The story is interesting, the gameplay is solid enough, and the graphics are beautiful. Not to mention that you will be paying $20 for a 15-hour-long campaign, 3 expansions, and a decent amount of replayability after beating the campaign. That's not just a bargain, that's a fucking steal. So if you've got the cash and the will to blow zombies' heads off, you can find this game on the Xbox Live Marketplace or the PSN. So until next time, this has been E-Dog saying, evil never sleeps, but neither does my boomstick. See you next time.